Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gotama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our Pali Canon and English study group, and we're studying Volume 11 of our book series, which is titled The Realms of Existence. This program, we study Volumes 2 through 13 of this book series titled The Words of the Buddha, The Path to Enlightenment, Revealing the Hidden. And now, being in Volume 11, The Realms of Existence, we're studying chapters 71 through 80 today. The way that we do this program is someone will read the chapter, then I will share some teachings on that particular chapter, then I'll open up to any and all questions that you guys might have. You can ask questions by putting those into Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions that you'd like. These books are available through buddhadailywisdom.com. From there, you can download the books, you can take them and go print them, or you can order printed versions on Amazon, or you can get them here at the temple in Chiang Mai, Thailand, because it's really nice to read these chapters either before class and or after class, because what you have is you have the words of the Buddha that are here in each individual chapter. Then at the end of the chapter, you have a reference that takes you back to the original Pali Canon so that you can see what the Buddha was maybe saying before this or after this. And then you have words from me to be able to help you reflect on this and better implement it into your practice so that you understand how to utilize this teaching from the Buddha in your actual practice to develop the mind towards enlightenment. So you can access all these books, and it's wise to start with the very first volume of the book series and then make your way through all the rest. And we have another program called the Group Learning Program that walks you through this very first book, which is Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is a 7-month program where I go chapter by chapter, helping you to understand a foundation and developing a real framework to understand the path to enlightenment. And now in the Pali Canon and English Study Group, volumes 2 through 13, I help you to fill in that framework using much more of the words of the Buddha to be able to see what it is that he actually taught. So I'd like to welcome all of you to our class today, whether you're joining for the first time or you've been joining regularly. I'm going to go through and read each one of these chapters, and anybody in Zoom, you're welcome to volunteer to read as well. And then I'll share some teachings on that chapter, and then I'll open up to any questions that you guys might have. This first chapter that we're studying, chapter 71, it's titled 3 Bases of Meritorious Activity. Monks, there are these 3 bases of meritorious activity, which is generating wholesome karma. What 3? The basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving, the basis of meritorious activity consisting in virtuous behavior, and the basis of meritorious activity consisting in meditative development. Here, monks, someone has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving to a limited extent. He has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in virtuous behavior to a limited extent, but he has not undertaken the basis of meritorious activity consisting in meditative development. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn among humans in an unfavorable condition. 2. Someone else has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving to a middling extent. He has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in virtuous behavior to a middling extent, but he has not undertaken the basis of meritorious activity consisting in meditative development. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn among humans in a favorable condition. 3. Someone else has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving to a superior extent. He has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in virtuous behavior to a superior extent. But he has not undertaken the basis of meritorious activity consisting in meditative development. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in companionship with the heavenly beings ruled by the four great kings. There are the four great kings who had practiced supremely the basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving, and the basis of meritorious activity consisting in virtuous behavior, surpassing the heavenly beings ruled by the four great kings in 10 respects: in heavenly lifespan, heavenly beauty, heavenly happiness, heavenly glory, and heavenly authority, and in heavenly forms, sounds, odors, flavors, and physical objects. 4. Someone else has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving to a superior extent. He has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in virtuous behavior to a superior extent, but he has not undertaken the basis of meritorious activity consisting in meditative development. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in the companionship with the Timsa heavenly beings. There, Saka, ruler of the heavenly beings, who had practiced supremely the basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving and the basis of meritorious activity consisting in virtuous behavior, surpasses the heavenly beings in 10 respects: in heavenly lifespan, beauty, happiness, glory, authority, forms, sounds, odors, flavors, and physical objects. Someone else has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving to a superior extent, has practiced virtuous behavior to a superior extent, but has not undertaken the basis of meritorious activity consisting in meditative development. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in companionship with the Yama heavenly beings. There, the young heavenly being, Su-Yama, who had practiced supremely the basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving, consisting in virtuous behavior, surpasses the Yama heavenly beings in 10 respects: in heavenly lifespan, beauty, happiness, glory, authority, and in heavenly forms, sounds, odors, flavors, and physical objects. 6. Someone else has practiced basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving to a superior extent, meritorious activity consisting in virtuous behavior to a superior extent, but has not undertaken the basis of meritorious activity consisting in meditative development. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in companionship with the Tusita heavenly beings. There, the young heavenly being, Santusita, who practiced supremely the basis of meritorious activity consisting of giving, consisting of virtuous behavior, surpasses the heavenly beings in 10 respects: in heavenly lifespan, beauty, happiness, glory, authority, and in heavenly forms, sounds, odors, flavors, and physical objects. 7. Someone else has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving to a superior extent. He has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in virtuous behavior to a superior extent, but he has not undertaken the basis of meritorious activity consisting in meditative development. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in companionship with the heavenly beings who excite in creation. There, the young heavenly being, Sunimita, who had practiced supremely the basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving and consisting in virtuous behavior, surpasses the heavenly beings who excite in creation in 10 respects: in heavenly lifespan, beauty, happiness, glory, and heavenly authority, and in heavenly forms, sounds, odors, flavors, and physical objects. 8. Someone else has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving to a superior extent. He has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting in virtuous behavior to a superior extent, but he has not undertaken the basis of meritorious activity consisting in meditative development. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in the companionship with the heavenly beings who control what is created by others. There, the young heavenly being, Vasavati, who had practiced supremely the basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving, and the basis of meritorious activity consisting in virtuous behavior, surpasses the heavenly beings who control what is created by others in 10 respects: in heavenly lifespan, beauty, happiness, glory, and in heavenly authority, and in heavenly forms, sounds, odors, flavors, and physical objects. These monks are the 3 bases of meritorious activity. Okay, so we're in a section of this book of the realms of existence where the Buddha is explaining heavenly beings and helping you to understand this realm of the heavenly realm and what goes on in that realm and how beings get reborn in that realm, what are the qualities of the mind and the consciousness of the beings in that heavenly realm. And here he's referring to what we refer to as the way of practice, these 3 bases of meritorious activity, which is essentially the way to generate wholesome karma. He's talking about generosity, he's talking about moral conduct, and meditation. Here you can see in the reflections that I provided you that I'm providing you guidance to understand these 3, because we refer to this as the way of practice. This is what any individual who's interested in getting to enlightenment would need to be practicing on a daily basis. It would be wise for you to be practicing generosity, where you're practicing the giving and sharing of more than is strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return. This is going to help you eliminate craving, desire, attachment. It helps the mind to release the causes and conditions that are producing the discontent feelings, because this path to enlightenment is all about getting to this peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy, where you no longer experience sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, boredom, loneliness, shyness, resentment, jealousy. Even the slightest displeasure is eliminated from the mind because you no longer have cravings, desires, attachments, wants, expectations, grasping, holding. That longing, yearning, and chasing after things is eliminated. So one of the ways that you do that is through practicing generosity, where you're giving and sharing more than is strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return. This is one of the ways of practice, and something that a practitioner should be doing on a daily basis, sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources. Then another thing that you'll need to do in order to get to this enlightened mental state is practice the moral conduct or virtuous behavior. This is from the Eightfold Path. If you've learned right speech, right action, and right livelihood using the original words of the Buddha, he's helping you understand the moral conduct that is going to either produce wholesome results through making wise decisions, or produce unwholesome results through making unwise decisions. This would be wholesome karma and unwholesome karma. So by you practicing right speech, right action, and right livelihood, you're shutting down the harm that you're causing to other beings. So therefore, there's less and less unwholesome results coming back to you. And eventually you get to a point where there isn't any unwholesome results. What you're experiencing in life is only wholesome. And that comes through practicing the moral conduct, which you would need to be doing on a day-to-day basis. And then there's the meditation, the breathing mindfulness meditation, the loving kindness meditation, and there's other 2 specialized meditations that are only used in unique situations, which is meditation to eliminate sexual cravings and meditation to realize non-self. But the primary forms of meditation are breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation, and you need to be doing that on a daily basis, because breathing mindfulness meditation is addressing craving, desire, attachment, eliminating that unwholesome quality while arising the wholesome quality of mindfulness and concentration. In the loving kindness meditation is eliminating anger, hatred, ill will, and all those lesser versions like frustration, irritation, annoyance, agitation. And then it's arising this loving kindness, which is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. So these are meditations that an individual who's aspiring to attain enlightenment would be practicing on a daily basis. We refer to this as the way of practice, because you need to be practicing the Eightfold Path on a consistent, ongoing basis. But this is what you can kind of boil this down to, of course, you need to know the detail of the Eightfold Path and practice that in detail. But this is kind of a summarized way of looking at what do you need to be doing on a day-to-day basis. So the Buddha is now showing you, based on having an individual practice those to some extent, what is the cause and effect of this in terms of your rebirth. He's not incentivizing you or encouraging you to be reborn. The ultimate goal is to get to enlightenment, and practicing the Eightfold Path is the way to get to enlightenment. And the Eightfold Path is summarized through what do you do on a day-to-day basis, the way of practice, practicing generosity, moral conduct, and meditation. So here, this first one, he's talking about an individual who's practicing generosity and moral conduct to a limited extent, but they're not yet practicing meditation. And he's saying in this situation, an individual would be reborn back into the human realm in an unfavorable condition. And he's just showing you the cause and effect. He's not trying to guilt, shame, or fear you into doing anything. He's just helping you to understand the natural law of karma, of what will actually occur. But ultimately, you would like to get to enlightenment in this life and escape the whole cycle of rebirth. But if somebody's practicing in this way, where they're practicing generosity to a limited extent, and they're practicing moral conduct or virtuous behavior to a limited extent, and they're not practicing meditation, then they will be reborn back into the human world in this unfavorable condition. And then he describes an individual who's practicing generosity to a middling extent and practicing the virtuous behavior or the moral conduct to a middling extent, but they're still not practicing meditation. And he's saying in this situation, an individual is now going to experience rebirth in the human realm in a favorable condition. Okay, so this is the cause and effect, or the action and result, helping you see that. But the same things that lead to getting to enlightenment are the same things that lead to rebirth in the heavenly realm as well. So now that we're studying these chapters about the heavenly realm, the Buddha is showing you things that he's guiding you to learn and practice and develop the mind in order to get to enlightenment, that if you fall short of enlightenment for any reason, there's the potential to be reborn into the heavenly realm. But remember, this heavenly realm isn't permanent. You're still in the cycle of rebirth, and you still need to get out of this cycle of rebirth. So the goal isn't to be reborn into the heavenly realm, but the Buddha is showing you the cause and effect here. So here in this situation, an individual is practicing the generosity to a superior extent, and they're practicing the moral conduct or the virtuous behavior to a superior extent, but they're still not practicing meditation. And in this situation, the Buddha is saying, okay, you're going to have the potential to be reborn into this heavenly realm. And this is the way that you can use a discourse like this, is to understand that yes, you need to be practicing generosity, moral conduct, and meditation, but you can see that it's not just about practicing meditation, because as the Buddha goes through multiple scenarios here, he ultimately gets to this eighth one where this individual is also practicing generosity to a superior extent, is also practicing moral conduct to a superior extent, but they're still not practicing meditation. They're not developing their mind through meditation. And this being is also being reborn into the heavenly realm. So it's not possible to just meditate your way to enlightenment. You're going to need other aspects of your practice. You're going to need to practice generosity. You're going to need to practice moral conduct in order to train your mind. If you were just in a cave meditating for 10 years, you're still not enlightened yet, because you haven't practiced any generosity, you haven't practiced any virtuous moral behavior, moral conduct. So there's all these other facets to developing the mind and practicing in such a way that you can now experience this enlightened mental state. So you need to round out your practice and not have it so centered on just meditation, but you need to practice each one of those factors of the Eightfold Path to fully develop the mind through what the Buddha is describing here is generosity, moral conduct, but also meditation as well, which is described in the Eightfold Path. So let me know what questions you guys have on this chapter. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or in Zoom you can raise your hand electronically and ask any questions that you like. Okay, looks like we have a question here from Mayuli. She says, Teacher, what does the Buddha consider minimum, middle, superior generosity? Virtuous behavior and meditative. For example, if we practice all the 5 precepts, is that considered minimum, middle, or superior? Okay, so practicing the 5 precepts, I would say, would be more of like a middling extent, where the kind of limited extent would be like just some basic speech. You're still causing a little bit of harm through your speech. You're still causing harm through speech. You're maybe practicing a little bit of right action, for example, but you're still doing things like maybe stealing occasionally or maybe lying a little bit here or there. This is like to a limited extent, where the middling extent would be the 5 precepts. And then there's a superior extent which goes beyond this, which takes you into the 8 precepts, where you're practicing a much higher degree of moral conduct. Okay, let me see if we have any other questions here. Not seeing any other questions. So we'll move on to the next chapter, which is chapter 72. This one is titled, "The Generous One Would Surpass the Other." Here, Venerable Sir, there might be 2 disciples of the perfectly enlightened one, equal in confidence, virtuous behavior, moral conduct, and wisdom, but one is generous while the other is not. With the breakup of the body after death, they would both be reborn in a good destination, in a heavenly world. When they have become heavenly beings, would there be any distinction or difference between them? There would be, Sumana. The perfectly enlightened one said, the generous one, having become a heavenly being, would surpass the other in 5 ways: in heavenly lifespan, heavenly beauty, heavenly happiness, heavenly glory, and heavenly authority. The generous one, having become a heavenly being, would surpass the other in these 5 ways. But, Venerable Sir, if these 2 pass away from there and again become human beings, would there still be some distinction or difference between them? There would be, Sumana. The perfectly enlightened one said, when they again become human beings, the generous one would surpass the other in 5 ways: in human lifespan, human beauty, human happiness, human fame, and human authority. When they again become human beings, the generous one would surpass the other in these 5 ways. But, Venerable Sir, if these 2 should go forth from the household life into homelessness, would there still be some distinction or difference between them? There would be, Sumana. The perfectly enlightened one said, the generous one, having gone forth, would surpass the other in 5 ways. 1. He would usually use a robe that has been specifically offered to him, seldom one that had not been specifically offered to him. 2. He would usually eat alms food that has been specifically offered to him, seldom alms food that had not been specifically offered to him. 3. He would usually use a lodging that has been specifically offered to him, seldom one that had not been specifically offered to him. 4. He would usually use medicines and supplies for the sick that had been specifically offered to him, seldom those that had not been specifically offered to him. 5. His fellow monastics, those with whom he resides, would usually behave towards him in agreeable ways by bodily, verbal, and mental action, seldom in disagreeable ways. They would usually present him with what is agreeable, seldom what is disagreeable. The generous one, having gone forth, would surpass the other in these 5 ways. But, Venerable Sir, if both attain arahantship, would there still be some distinction or difference between them after they have attained arahantship? In this case, Sumana, I declare, there would be no difference between the liberation of one and the liberation of the other. It's outstanding and amazing, Venerable Sir. Truly, one has good reason to give alms, a donation, and do meritorious deeds, since they will be helpful if one becomes a heavenly being, again becomes a human being, or goes forth. So it is, Sumana, so it is, Sumana. Truly, one has good reason to give alms, a donation, and do meritorious deeds, since they will be helpful if one becomes a heavenly being, again becomes a human being, or goes forth. This is what the perfectly enlightened one said. Having said this, the fortunate one, the teacher, further said this: as the stainless moon moving through the sphere of space outshines with its radiance all the stars in the world, so one accomplished in virtuous behavior, moral conduct, a person endowed with confidence, outshines by generosity all the selfish people in the world. As the 100-peaked rain cloud, thundering, covered in lightning, pours down rain upon the earth, overwhelm the plains and lowlands, so the perfectly enlightened one's disciple, the wise one accomplished in vision, surpasses the selfish person in 5 respects: lifespan in glory, beauty and peacefulness, possessed of wealth, after death he rejoices in heaven. Okay, again, the Buddha is helping you to understand what leads to heavenly rebirth. But again, always remember, whenever you're seeing that, the ultimate goal is to get to enlightenment in this life, not to be reborn in the heavenly realm. This individual is asking the Buddha, out of these 2 individuals, one is generous and the other one is not. So what is the result of this based in their rebirth? So the Buddha shares that, yes, both of these beings will be reborn into the heavenly realm, but there's a difference once they get there. And he explains this difference, that the one who's generous experiences this heavenly lifespan, meaning a longer lifespan, beauty, happiness, glory, and authority. And then this same person says, okay, if they pass away from the heavenly realm and they're reborn into the human realm, what is the result there? Does this generosity that they once practiced in the human realm, that they went to the heavenly realm and now they're back to the human realm, does this still affect them, that they practiced generosity at one time? And the Buddha is saying, yes, it does, that they're going to experience increased lifespan in the human world. They're going to experience beauty, happiness, fame, and this authority. This is as a result of having practiced generosity. So now the person says, okay, well, if they become ordained and they become an ordained practitioner, are they going to experience any benefits there from the generosity that they once practiced? And the Buddha says, yes, they will, that they're going to experience that people are going to essentially practice generosity with them, that they're going to give them robes, alms food, lodging, medicines, and then that the people are going to be essentially kind to them through their bodily, verbal, and mental action. And this is the result of practicing generosity back 2 lives ago when they were human, that they were practicing generosity. And then when they were heavenly beings, it affected them there and improved their functioning there once again as a human being and now as an ordained practitioner. And the reason why is because when you're practicing generosity at any stage of any of the lives that you're having, you're training your mind to eliminate cravings, desires, attachments. So 2, 3, 4 lives ago, if you're practicing generosity, that means in that life you're reducing your craving, desire, attachment. So as you're being reborn into these other realms, whether you go to heaven and then come back to the human realm and then you ordain, you have less and less craving in your mind. So you're being more and more giving. You've removed some of that selfishness from the mind. So you're going to be more and more generous, not just in that very first life that we're talking about here in the human life. It's not that you practice generosity there and then you never practiced it anymore. You would be continuing to practice generosity through all these lives, and you would have less and less craving in your mind. And that's why anytime you're practicing generosity, generosity is going to come back to you. It would be unwise to practice generosity with the expectation that people are going to share with you. That's not pure generosity. That's not going to have the same effect. But the Buddha is showing you the cause and effect so that you understand that if you're in this life and you're practicing generosity with others and you're noticing that generosity is coming back to you, that's the Dhamma. So you shouldn't practice generosity in order to get generosity to be practiced with you, but as you see people practicing generosity with you, this is the reason why, is because you're practicing generosity. It's the results of your decisions. So now this individual asked the Buddha, okay, well, if both of these individuals become arahants, meaning they're enlightened, would there be any difference after they both obtained enlightenment? And the Buddha says, no, there wouldn't be any difference because both of their minds would be liberated at that point. They would have fully eliminated craving, anger, and ignorance. But in order for a being to get to enlightenment, to arahantship, they would need to practice generosity. So out of these 2 beings that they're talking about, one practicing generosity and one not, by the time they both get to arahantship, they would both be practicing generosity. It's not possible to get to enlightenment without practicing generosity. And at that point, once they're both enlightened, both of their minds are liberated. They're going to have their own personality, their own character. They're going to do their own hobbies and activities and different things like this. They'll have potentially different livelihoods and things like this. But in terms of the condition of their mind, they're both having this liberation where their mind's both peaceful and joyful permanently. So in this situation, there's no difference. There's no disparity. And they're both continuing to practice generosity. By the time you get to enlightenment, you would have practiced a lot of generosity in order to get there. But you're not going to just stop practicing generosity as an enlightened being. You're going to still be practicing generosity. So that's what the Buddha is essentially describing here, that there's no difference between them, that one who wasn't practicing generosity, they're going to need to practice generosity and now continue to do that as an enlightened being. And now this individual says, wow, this is such amazing that this giving of donations affects one in a positive way, both in the heavenly realm, coming back to the human realm, and then being ordained, you still experience this improvement. And the improvement is that you've reduced your craving, desire, attachment, so you're going to experience improved results because you're not making decisions through selfishness any longer. And then the Buddha just gives kind of this summary and kind of talks about it in almost a little bit of a poetic format. And let me know what questions you guys have here. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions here. So let's go on to the next chapter, which is chapter 73. And this is quite a long chapter. You can see here it's very, very long, quite a long chapter. So I'm not actually going to read this, but I'm just going to summarize it for you because I have read all of these many, many, many times. And even before each class, I will refresh my memory of the 10 chapters we're going to study. So I already refreshed my memory on this. What the Buddha is basically describing is he's describing that the heavenly beings are experiencing this exclusively pleasant feelings, this happiness. And that's one of the reasons why I consider it to be undesirable to be reborn into the heavenly realm, because those beings oftentimes are quite complacent in the development of their practice. Because they only experience those pleasant feelings, they don't experience the painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant. They're oftentimes complacent, and they oftentimes are reborn either back into the human realm, or they can even be reborn down into hell, the animal realm, or the afflicted spirit realm. So in my opinion, the ultimate goal would be to use this life, the human life, to cultivate the mind and get to enlightenment in this life. Don't aspire to be reborn in the heavenly realm, but the Buddha is describing the various qualities of what one will experience in all these realms, because he had memories of his past lives having existed in all these realms, and that's why he was able to describe them. And he describes them in detail using a certain cosmology. A cosmology is how they thought about the world during that particular time of the lifetime of the Buddha. So nowadays we think about hell as just being one realm. We think about the animal realm and all the different species in there. We think about the afflicted spirit realm as one realm. We think about the human realm, and of course there's different ethnicities within the human realm. And then we think about the heavenly realm as just one realm. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, he broke down the heavenly realm into multiple categories, and he broke down the hell realm into multiple categories. So here he's just going through and explaining how beings in the heavenly realm have this significant amount of happiness, and he's describing it in detail based on his memory of having existed in that realm. So let me know if you guys have any questions on this. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions here. So I'm going to move on to the next one. And there's a bunch here that I don't know that we necessarily need to read, because it's sharing various aspects of the teachings, and they're either very long and they're sharing various aspects of them, or they're very short and I can really summarize it for you. So let me help you understand this one, because this one is also a very long discourse as well. You can see here there's lots and lots and lots of pages. This one's actually longer than the last one. So let me explain to you what the Buddha's teaching here, so we don't need to read the entire thing. And then what I encourage you to do is actually go download the book or get a printed version of it and read it, because it does give you a lot of insight. But just in terms of our class, to read through this, it would be quite a while. So here, this title is Great Fruit and Benefit of the Noble Ones, Upasata observance. So what this is a period of time where the Buddha would encourage people to increase their precepts and practice deeper during this particular time. And it's based on the cycles of the moon. And some people still observe this today, where if they're practicing the 5 precepts, they might move to the 8 precepts during this particular time frame. And this can help you to ultimately get to the point where you are practicing the 8 precepts continuously. If you were just practicing the 8 precepts for one day, a month, for example, it's not going to have the same impact as if you're practicing those 8 precepts continuously for 3 months, 6 months, a year. That's what you would ultimately like to get to, is where you're able to develop your mind on a consistent, ongoing basis. Just having one day of practicing these isn't necessarily going to have the same impact as practicing on a consistent, ongoing basis. So this upasata observance was something that people were well aware of during the lifetime of the Buddha, and different groups of people in different communities practiced it differently. And here the Buddha is describing what cattle workers do on this particular observance, and he describes a cattle worker and how they observe that particular holiday. And then he describes this group of people here that I'm not really able to pronounce, and how they observe this particular period of time, and he explains that. But then eventually he gets to his community and how they decide to practice during this time of this observance of the Upasata day. And ultimately what he gets to is he talks about the 8 precepts down here. And you can see the 8 precepts in detail in volume 3, where I share them in the words of the Buddha, and then I help you to learn and understand what they are. And he's talking about here how an individual has laid their weapons aside, that they choose to not kill during that particular day. And then the second one, he talks about how they choose to practice that second precept of awaiting what is given, to not take things, to not steal. And then the third one, because it's moving from the 5 precepts to the 8 precepts, where the 5 precepts, you're not having sexual misconduct, where in the 8 precepts, you're abandoning sexual activity 100%. And this will help you to eliminate sensual desire. And this is something that people do in order to eliminate that fetter, pollution, or taint of sensual desires, completely eliminate sexual intercourse 100%. And that would be an increase from the 5 precepts to the 8 precepts. Then there's the 5th precept here, which is the same as the 5 precepts, where you're not speaking any lies. And then the 5th one here in the 8 precepts is the same as the 5 precepts, where you're eliminating substances that cause heedlessness, because that promotes unattentiveness, unalertness, unawareness of mind, which is walking the exact opposite direction of right mindfulness, which you need in order to get to enlightenment. So even in the 5 precepts, an individual would eliminate substances that cause heedlessness. But now moving into the 6th precept, which is above and beyond the 5 precepts, here an individual is eating once a day. And what's happening here is the Buddha would teach to eat just once a day prior to noon. And the reason why is that it helps you eliminate sensual desire. That if you're noticing that you're eating based on emotion, like maybe something happens at 2 in the afternoon or 4 in the afternoon, and you feel sad, you feel frustrated, you feel irritated, and maybe you turn to ice cream or chocolate cake or something like this as a way to get pleasant feelings, that your mind is still forming its inner feelings based on some condition, which is food. So if you eat just once a day, it trains the mind to eliminate sensual desire. It's one of those things, to train the mind to eliminate sensual desire, where it doesn't allow it to base its decision to eat on particular emotions. So you don't need to just eat once a day in order to get to enlightenment, but you do need to learn to eat in moderation, where as a household practitioner, you're going to need to probably eat 2 or 3 times a day, maybe more, because your caloric value or your caloric needs are higher, that you're going to need more calories in a given day because of the household activities that you do. If you're sitting around meditating and listening to a teacher teach the Dhamma or teach the teachings of the Buddha, which is what a ordained practitioner will do, sure, eating once a day is possible because you don't need that many calories in that situation. But as a household practitioner, you're going to need more calories, but you need to learn how to eat in moderation, where you're eating smaller portions and you're not eating based in emotion. That's what you would ultimately like to do. You could do what the Buddha is teaching, which is eat once a day and see where that takes you, but oftentimes people are challenged with that. And some people say that the calories in a particular type of food during the lifetime of the Buddha was much higher than what we experience now. So for example, a broccoli during the lifetime of the Buddha, they say had higher calories than a broccoli nowadays because the soil, the water, the environment was much more pure. So that was also one of the reasons why they could eat just once a day. So you can decide how you would like to potentially practice this if you would like to move to this, whether you eat once a day or you eat more than once a day, but just be sure you're eating in moderation and you're not eating based on emotion. That's what will help you to eliminate sensual desire around food. The seventh precept here, this is where the Buddha talks about eliminating dancing, singing, listening to music, and unsuitable shows. This is also helping you to eliminate sensual desire. And as an ordained practitioner, they're going to eliminate this 100% and never go back to it. But as a household practitioner, you can eliminate these things for a period of time, like 3 months, 6 months, a year, or what have you. Train the mind to no longer form its inner feelings based on these things. And then ultimately, if you decide to go back to it, you could, but at that point, you're not forming your inner feelings based on this. So for example, if you hear a certain song and you get really happy and really excited, your mind's going to this excited, pleasant feeling based on a condition, which is the song. But then if you hear another song that's more sad, your mind might go down into the sadness based on this song. And, we consider that a very good artist, someone who's a musician who's able to do that. Well, what you would like to do is get to the point where you're not basing your inner feelings on some condition, like music. So you would like to potentially, at any point that you decide you're going to work on this, is eliminate music and these other things from your life for a period of time. And then that way you can go within and you can eliminate any craving, desire, attachment. If there's any loneliness or boredom and you put on music because you're bored, you haven't really eliminated the cause of the boredom, which is the craving, desire, attachment. You're going to need to go away from these things for a period of time to train the mind to be peaceful and joyful in the present moment, whether you're listening to music or whether you're not. So by going away from something like music or dancing or singing or something like this for an extended period of time, you can train the mind to eliminate any craving. You can eliminate the ability of the mind to form a conditioned feeling based on these things. And then once you've noticed that the mind is able to do that, because even though you choose to eliminate that, you're going to hear music occasionally. Your friend or your neighbor or somebody else is going to be playing some music, or you're going to be at a stoplight and somebody else pulls up next to you with some music and you're going to hear it. And you can see that mind can maintain your calmness and composure, your contentedness, your peacefulness and your joy, whether it's a song that would normally elicit excited feelings or if it's a song that would normally elicit sad feelings. So you'll be able to see over a 3 month, 6 month, year period that your mind has been able to let go of any cravings, desires, attachments. And then at some point, if you choose to listen to a little bit of music here and there or do these other things, you'll be completely fine because you're no longer basing your inner feelings on those particular things. Then the other part of this seventh precept is the Buddha is talking about an aspect of how to eliminate personal existence view, that fetter where the mind is clinging to the self-image or the self-identity. This is realizing non-self. Whereas if you're beautifying the body, applying garlands or scents or jewelries or fragrance and things like this, this is the mind wanting to be perceived in the world a certain way. So the same thing here is that you can go away from those things for a period of time where you can eliminate wearing jewelry, or you can eliminate beautifying the body or wearing cologne or scents or things like this, so that the mind no longer associates this body as being who you are. There's other things you can be doing too, like shaving your hair if you'd like to do that. Not everybody needs to shave their hair to get to enlightenment, but that's one thing that will really accelerate you eliminating personal existence view. You can wear simple clothing. I teach all these different methods, and there's lots of different methods that you can use in Volume 1, Chapter 16 to help you realize non-self and eliminate personal existence view. And the Buddha shares that here in the seventh precept as a way to help you eliminate that personal existence view. And then here in the eighth precept, the Buddha is talking about how to eliminate conceit, that fetter of conceit, the arrogance, the pride, the boastfulness, where you're putting yourself above people or below people and you're judging other people. He's talking about eliminating the use of high or luxurious beds, that if your bed is really high, you will notice that there's more arrogance and more pride and more boastfulness in the mind. You would like to get to a point where you're practicing where your bed is low, either at the knee height or below. For me, I just put my mattress straight on the floor. There's no box spring, there's no frame, there's no nothing. It's just a mattress straight on the floor. And this will really help you to be able to eliminate conceit. It's not going to be 1 week or 1 month or even 1 year necessarily, but you would like to get to the point where you're able to go down into bed and get up out of bed. And this really has an amazing impact to eliminating conceit. Again, there's other things that you would need to learn, which is part of Volume 1, Chapter 16, to proactively eliminate conceit and arrogance and pride and judging from the mind. But putting your bed low to the ground is one of the most impactful things that you can do. And the wonderful thing about this is you just set it up once. It'll take you all of probably about 5 minutes to do it. And then boom, you're getting all the benefits of that for long into the future. So now 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, your mind is gradually wearing away its conceit with this and other things you're going to need to do as well. So these are the 8 precepts. And as I've talked through these and I've helped you see, at least with some of these, how it's helping you to eliminate the certain pollutions, you can see that these aren't rules. They aren't commandments. There's not something to just follow blindly, but you would like to understand behind each precept, what is it that you're actually eliminating in terms of the pollutions of mind. So for example, since I didn't explain it, this first one where you're eliminating killing, you're cultivating loving kindness and compassion. This is helping you to eliminate your ill will in the mind. This is one of those fetters that you need to eliminate. It's not a rule, it's not a commandment. It's helping you to eliminate one of the pollutions of the mind. It's also helping you improve your moral conduct so you're not causing harm, so harm isn't coming back to you. There's a real purpose. There's a why behind each one of these teachings that the Buddha is sharing with you. He's not sharing rules or commandments. He's helping you to understand how to eradicate these various pollutions of the mind. Now, with this second one where he teaches to eliminate the stealing and various other things that he's talking about here, abandon taking what is not given, only accepting what is given, awaiting what is given, and being honest. Here, what this is doing is helping you eliminate your craving, desire, attachment, your central desire, where you're not stealing from other people and you're not putting your expectations on people to get you the things that you want. And then I mentioned how eliminating sexual activity or even practicing the 5 precepts in terms of the 3rd precept of eliminating harmful sexual misconduct, that's also helping you eliminate sensual desire as well. Abandoning sexual activity 100% is helping you to eliminate sensual desire. But even moving from 2, 3, 4, 5 different partners down to 1, that's helping you to eliminate sensual desire as well, because you're now practicing the 3rd precept as part of the 5 precepts where you're not causing harm through your sexual conduct. And not only is it helping you eliminate sensual desire, but because less and less of your decisions are being made through craving, desire, attachment, you're not making unwise decisions through your own selfish desire. So it's minimizing the amount of harm that's coming back to you, the unwholesome results. Whereas if you were going outside of your relationship, if you were having sex with minors, if you were raping people, if you were luring people away from their partner to have sex, this is all covered in the 5 precepts as part of the 3rd precept. If you reduce that and eliminate that, you're now practicing less and less craving, which means you're going to be experiencing more and more wholesome results, because any kind of cravings that you make decisions through, it's going to produce unwholesome karma or unwholesome results for you. So all of these precepts are helping you to eliminate certain fetters in the mind. Even this one where it talks about lying. People kind of come to realize that, yeah, it's unwise to lie, but it's connected to a certain fetter, a certain taint, a certain pollution, a certain defilement of the mind. The reason why people typically lie is they have some craving, desire, attachment in their mind. There's something that they want, and if they tell the truth, they're not going to get that. So by telling the truth, you're learning to eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments, your central desire. So telling the truth is wise because people will see you as being trustworthy and loyal and dependable, and now your personal, professional relationships will improve, but it's also helping you to eliminate your pollutions of the mind. And then the same thing with this 5th precept of eliminating substances that cause heedlessness. Not only is it helping you to cultivate more mindfulness, but it's helping you eliminate sensual desire, because this is typically why somebody might drink intoxicants, is they're looking for those pleasant feelings associated with the intoxicants. So this is helping you eliminate your craving, desire, attachments. And sometimes people use intoxicants in a social situation. So their mind might be clinging to this social situation. So by choosing to no longer use substances that cause heedlessness, not only are you experiencing more mindfulness, but you're eliminating your cravings, desires, attachments, you're clinging in social situations. So now you can get liberated from those particular attachments as well. And then I already explained to you the fetters and the taints related to the 6th, 7th, and 8th precept as well. So this is what the Buddha is teaching here, is about how to increase your practice to the 8 precepts during special times of the year. But I would encourage you to look at doing this at all times of the year, because this is what's going to help you. And that's why the Buddha taught people to do this at these special times of the year, because maybe if you practice this for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, and you kind of got used to practicing the 8 precepts for that period of time, maybe it'll become 1 month or 2 months or 6 months or a year. So this is the way to kind of ease your mind into practicing the 8 precepts, is maybe pick one day and practice the 8 precepts for one day, and now go back to the 5. And then maybe next week, practice it for 2 or 3 days, and now get comfortable with that for 2 or 3 days, practicing the 8 precepts, and then go back to the 5, and then extend that a little bit longer. Do 4, 5, or 6 days of practicing the 8 precepts. This is how you can gradually bring it into your life, because if you just snapped your fingers and tried to practice all 8 precepts from the get-go, you would find it quite challenging, because the unenlightened mind doesn't like that change. It doesn't like that impermanence. But if you can gradually bring it in, like what the Buddha is essentially helping his students to do based on this upasata observance, this is what will be sustaining for you. And that's what will create the most change, because just giving up sex for one day isn't really going to promote significant change in your mind. Or just eliminating music for one day isn't going to promote significant change to the central desire in your mind. You need to do it for an extended period of time, which will really have the most impact. So let me know what questions you guys have on this chapter. This is chapter 74. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions that you like. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So we'll move on to chapter 75. Here, chapter 75, we don't necessarily need to read this. I can explain it to you. Although, Marcy, go ahead. You can read it if you like, Marcy. It's a short one.
Sure. Monks, I will teach you about the heavenly beings of the Grand Haba order. I'm not even sure. Heavenly beings. Listen to that. And what monks are the heavenly beings of the Grand Haba order? There are monks, heavenly beings residing in fragment roots, heavenly beings residing in fragment heartwood, heavenly beings residing in fragment softwood, heavenly beings residing in fragment bark, heavenly beings residing in fragment shoots, heavenly beings residing in fragment leaves, heavenly beings residing in fragrant flowers, heavenly beings residing in fragment fruits, heavenly beings residing in fragment sap, and heavenly beings residing in fragrant scents. Now it makes more sense. These monks are called the heavenly beings of the Grand Haba order.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. So remember, what the Buddha is doing is he's teaching you about the world around you, right? He's not teaching you the way the world should be. He's teaching you the way the world is. He's teaching you these natural laws of existence so you understand the world around you. And what he's teaching here is that there are heavenly beings from this particular category of heaven that reside inside plants. That's what he's describing to you. These fragrant roots, fragrant heartwood, fragrant softwood, bark, shoots, leaves, flowers, fruits, sap, and scents. And then there's heavenly beings that reside other places too. They don't all reside here in this particular place. So he's explaining to you the way the world is. He's not explaining to you the way the world should be. So that's what you can glean out of a particular discourse like this. How you use that in order to eliminate discontentedness, you just understand that, okay, this is the way the world is. That, should you experience interaction with a being through any of these situations, then you would know that, okay, there's heavenly beings in these particular plants, in these particular species of plants. So you can't kill these beings through cutting down a tree or through harvesting any of these things. You can't kill a heavenly being that way, but he's just explaining that they reside in these plants. So let me know what questions you guys have here, if any at all. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So now we'll go on to the next one. So this is chapter 76, to be reborn in the company. Go ahead, Marcy.
To be reborn in the company of the heavenly beings of the Grand Haba order. Here, monks, someone practices wholesome conduct of body, speech, and mind. He has heard the heavenly beings of the Grand Haba order are long-lived, beautiful, and abound in happiness. He thinks, oh, with the breakup of the body after death, may I be reborn in the company of the heavenly beings of the Grand Haba order. Then, with the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in the company of the heavenly beings of the Grand Haba order. This, monks, is the cause and reasoning why someone here, with the breakup of the body after death, is reborn in the company of the heavenly beings of the Grand Haba order.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. So here, what the Buddha is talking about is somebody who's interested in being reborn into the heavenly realm, that if they fix their mind on that, then they do the work to be able to do that, then they can accomplish that. But this is one of the fetters that the Buddha is teaching you to eliminate. There's those 6th and 7th fetter, desire for form and desire for formless. In order to get to enlightenment, you would have to eliminate any craving, desire, attachment to be reborn in the heavenly realm. That you need to completely eliminate all cravings, desires, attachments. But if you have a craving to be reborn into the heavenly realm and you understand what it takes to be reborn there, an individual could potentially learn all of that and make their way to the heavenly realm. But again, I suggest that would be very unwise, because you're still stuck in the cycle of rebirth, and you're going to most likely be reborn into another realm, and it could be one of the lower realms. And then now you're starting over either in hell, an animal realm, afflicted spirits, or perhaps in the human realm. The best thing to do is use this human existence to get to enlightenment here. So it's not that you can just think about existing in the heavenly realm and now you just thought about it and boom, you're going to be reborn there. You still need to do the work to be able to accomplish that. So the Buddha is just summarizing that here. So let me know what questions you guys have here. Looks like Marcy has a question. Go ahead, ma'am.
Teacher David, would it be a wholesome mindset to wrap the mind around the fact that this being Marcy is a being in a long line of beings that are on the path to reach enlightenment, and the being that was prior to this being Marcy kind of started to pave the way, which then put Marcy in the situation that she's in now to kind of continue to pave that way so that there is no craving for enlightenment? If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yep, that's exactly the way it truly is. That you can think that way, and that's the truth. That's why sometimes people ask me, like, David, how long have you been on the path to enlightenment? And my mind right away thinks, are they talking about this life? Or are they talking about previous lives too? Because you can think about that you've been on this journey to enlightenment for multiple lives. It's not just this life that you've been on this path. That whether you studied the teachings of the Buddha directly or not, that's maybe you don't know that or not. I know that I was, but let's just say I wasn't. Well, in previous lives, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your uncles and aunts, they were teaching you how to speak kind and polite and respectful. So these natural laws that the Buddha taught, different people have tapped into them at different times. So for example, when I was growing up as a child, my grandmother would say, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. This is right speech. This is a component of right speech that you can learn and understand. So if you think about it as you've been on this path to enlightenment for multiple lifetimes, then yeah, this is a great way to think about it, and that you're gradually making the way towards that goal. And that's why I share with people, if it takes you 5 years, 10 years, even 20 years to get to enlightenment, okay, so what? You've been on this journey for countless lives, eons, for millions of years. Another 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, that's like a blink of an eye compared to how long we've been in this constant cycle and this constant rounds of rebirth. So just be calm, just be steady, just be diligent. Don't crave it, don't chase after it, but just know that you've been working towards it for many, many lifetimes. And you're going to kind of almost sneak up on enlightenment. And if it takes you 2 years, if it takes you 5 years, if it takes you 10 years, okay, so be it. If you don't get to enlightenment at all and you fall short of it and you need to experience rebirth, okay, so be it. You've been reborn many times in the past. You can experience rebirth again. But ultimately, if you stay dedicated, determined, and diligent without craving for enlightenment, there's no reason why you can't get to it in this lifetime. That would be the ultimate goal. Okay, I don't see any hands there. Let me check if we have any questions on Facebook or YouTube. Looks like Mayu Lee's asking a question here. Going back to chapter 75, I live on a 13 acre surrounded by bush and trees. I have heard voices talking to each other near the woods. Can this potentially be heavenly beings? Yes, this can be your independent confirmation that what the Buddha is talking about was true, because all of us have different situations, and you're adding that there's no one there, that this is private property, that that there's no human beings around. So this is how you independently verify the truth of the teachings of the Buddha. You never believe his teachings. And different people have had different experiences. So in your situation, you have independently verified this, what the Buddha is teaching you. But in other situations, other people haven't had that same experience and they haven't independently verified it. So that's where you can use your experiences, your own direct experiences, to confirm what it is that the Buddha is sharing. And that's why you don't ever believe what he's teaching you. So yes, Mayuli, that's exactly what you can use that experience for. Okay, so now we're going to move on to chapter 77. This is a chapter where the Buddha is describing to be reborn in the company of heavenly beings who reside in those fragrant roots. Go ahead, Marcy, if you'd like to read it.
Sure. Thank you, Teacher David. To be reborn in the company of the heavenly beings who reside in fragrant roots. Here, monks, someone practices wholesome conduct of body, speech, and mind. He has heard the heavenly beings who reside in fragrant roots are long-lived, beautiful, and abound in happiness. He thinks, oh, with the breakup of body after death, may I be reborn in the company of the heavenly beings who reside in fragrant roots. He gives food, gives drink, he gives clothing, he gives vehicle, he gives garland, he gives fragrance, he gives an ointment, he gives a bed, he gives a dwelling, he gives a lamp. Then, with the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in the company of the heavenly beings who reside in fragrant roots. This monk is cause and the reason why someone here with the breakup of the body after death is reborn in the company of heavenly beings who reside in the fragrant roots. The same teaching was spoken for each of the other groups of Grandhabas, those who reside in fragrant heart root, reside in fragrant soft wood, reside in fragrant bark, reside in fragrant shoots, reside in fragrant leaves, reside in fragrant flowers, reside in fragrant fruits, reside in fragrant sap, reside in fragrant scents, each the donor of the corresponding type of gift.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. So here you can see the Buddha is just describing this cause and effect. He's just teaching you the natural law of karma. He's not trying to convince you of anything. He's not trying to force you or control you to do anything. He's not trying to guilt, shame, or fear you into anything. He's just showing you the cause and effect. If you would like to know how one gets reborn into this realm of the heavenly beings who reside in fragrant roots, here it is. He's describing it to you, that they give these gifts of food, drink, clothing, vehicle, garland, fragrance, ointment, bedding, dwelling, and lamps. That's what leads to this rebirth. And then, of course, they also have practiced a certain amount of bodily, speech, and mental conduct that is wholesome. That's a prerequisite for that. So there's a certain amount of development to the mind using right speech, right action, and right livelihood. That's what that's referring to. And then, of course, the mental discipline as well. So he's just showing you the cause and effect. What you choose to do in your life, it's your choice. It's your life, your decisions, your results. And he's just helping you to see this cause and effect. What you're awakening to on this path to enlightenment is the natural law of karma. These natural laws of existence, there's multiple natural laws, but that's the primary natural law that you're awakening to, is the natural law of karma. So let me know what questions you guys have on this chapter. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, looks like Marcy has a question. Go ahead, ma'am.
Would it be wise to say that a being that would, obviously have some good moral conduct, but has a heavy dedication to generosity would be someone that would be considered one that would go into this heavenly realm? Is that like a really deep generosity that someone has in correspondence with having good moral conduct?
Yeah, you can see from that previous chapter we saw that in order to get to the heavenly realm, there needs to be superior development of generosity. So there needs to be quite an extensive amount of generosity. And remember, it's not about the amount that you're giving, right? Like, I don't know if you've heard me teach this, Marcy, that when the Buddha is talking about superior giving, it's not that you're giving an exorbitant amount of money, right? It's not about the quantity of what you're giving. It's about the frequency that you're giving. So even if you gave 10 cents frequently, that is the mind training to let go of its craving, desire, attachment. Or even if you were to give your time, say you were donating 30 minutes a day for 3 days a week to tutor a young child, this is generosity frequently versus giving 6 hours for once a month, right? So the frequency of your giving is the superior amount of giving, that you're doing it frequently. If you were just giving like one big gift a year to a temple, for example, that's not nearly as impactful to the mind as if you're giving more frequently, a smaller gift frequently. That's going to have more impact to the mind. So yes, you would need to have superior generosity just to be able to get to the heavenly realm. Here, the Buddha's not talking about superior generosity, but he did in that previous discourse that you saw. And this is where you can look at the totality of the Buddha's teachings here in this particular book, and you can see how he's fully describing the heavenly realm. And you can, rather than look at these discourses in isolation, you can look at them as connected to each other, because he's describing the same natural law. He's just describing different aspects of it in the different discourses that he's teaching. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. So I'm going to move on to this next one, chapter 78. Here, this one is titled The Heavenly Beings. Go ahead, Marcy.
And Teacher David, I don't mind reading unless somebody else would like to read, so to help you out to save your voice for what you need to teach.
Perfect.
The heavenly beings of the cloud residing order. Monks, I will teach you about the heavenly beings of the cloud residing order. Listen to that. And what, monks, are the heavenly beings of the cloud residing order? There are, monks, cool cloud heavenly beings, warm cloud heavenly beings, storm cloud heavenly beings, wind cloud heavenly beings, and rain cloud heavenly beings. These monks are called the heavenly beings of the cloud residing order.
Okay, so this is a very simple discourse. He's just explaining this other category of heavenly beings. And he's describing and helping you understand, okay, there's heavenly beings that reside in these various clouds. And that's what you can glean from this. He's just describing these different categorizations. And he's explaining the way the world is. He's not explaining the way the world should be. He's explaining the way the world is, so that you have this direct experience of confirming this if you would like to confirm it. And then you know how the world is. Any questions on this? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions here. So now we'll go to chapter 79. Go ahead, Marcy.
To be reborn in the company of the heavenly beings of the cloud residing order. Here, monks, someone practice wholesome conduct of body, speech, and mind. He has heard the heavenly beings of the cloud residing order are long-lived, beautiful, and abound in happiness. He thinks, oh, with the breakup of the body after death, may I be reborn in the company of the heavenly beings of the cloud residing order. He gives food, he gives drink, he gives clothing, he gives vehicle, he gives garland, he gives fragrance, he gives ointment, he gives bed, he gives dwelling, he gives lamp. Then, with the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in the company of the heavenly beings of the cloud residing order. This monk is the cause and reason why someone here with the breakup of the body after death is reborn in the company of the heavenly beings of the cloud residing order.
Okay, so here he's just showing you the cause and effect. He's showing you the natural law of Gama. There's an action, there's a result. There's a cause, there's an effect. And this is the cause here, which is someone's practicing this body, verbal, and mental conduct. And this is described in the Eightfold Path. And they're also practicing this generosity, right? They're practicing this generosity. So now this is what leads to this rebirth in this particular realm of the heavenly beings. And here, notice that he's not talking about meditation, because in that previous chapter, it was all about generosity and it was all about virtuous behavior. And here, he's giving you the detail. The previous discourse was talking more generally. This one is the detail, right? He's giving you that specifics. So here, he's just helping you to understand how the world is, this cause and effect, this natural law of karma. Any questions here? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions here. So we'll go to our last chapter, which is chapter 80. I think this one, it's 2 pages. We can read this one. Go ahead, Marcy, if you'd like to read this one.
Agreeable bodied heavenly beings. Here, Venerable Sir, I had gone off to pass the day and was in seclusion with a number of agreeable bodied heavenly beings approached me, paid homage, respect to me, stood to one side and said to me, Venerable Sir Anurada, we agreeable-bodied heavenly beings exert mastery and exercise control over 3 things. We immediately acquire whatever color we want, we immediately acquire whatever pleasure we want, and we immediately acquire whatever voice we want. Venerable Sir, how many qualities should a woman possess so that with the breakup of the body after death, she's reborn in companionship with the agreeable-bodied heavenly beings? If she possesses 8 qualities, Anuranda, a woman with the breakup of the body after death, is reborn in companionship with the agreeable-bodied heavenly beings. What 8? Here, Anuranda, to whichever husband her parents give her, doing so out of desire for her good, seeking her welfare, taking compassion on her, acting out of compassion for her, a woman raises before him and retires after him, undertaking whatever needs to be done, agreeable in her conduct and pleasing in her speech. She honors, respects, admires, and venerates those whom her husband respects, his mother and father, Aztecs and Brahmins, and when they arrive, she offers them a seat and water. 3, she is skillful and diligent in attending to her husband's domestic chores, whether knitting or weaving. She possesses sound judgment about them in order to carry out and arrange them properly. 4, she finds out what her husband's domestic helpers, whether slaves and messengers or workers, have done and left undone. She finds out the condition of those who are ill, and she distributes to each an appropriate portion of food. 5, she guards and protects whatever income her husband brings home, whether money, grain, silver, or gold, and she is not in a spendthrift, wastrel, or squanderer in his earnings. 6, she is a female household practitioner who has gone for refuge to the Buddha, the teachings, and the community. 7, she is virtuous, practicing moral conduct, abstaining from the destruction of life, taking what is not given, sexual misconduct, false speech, and wine and intoxicants, substances, heedlessness, the basis for heedlessness. 8, she is generous, one who resides at home with a heart free from the stain of selfishness, freely generous, open-handed, delighting in letting go, devoted in charity, delighted in giving and sharing. Possessing these 8 qualities, Anuranda, a woman with the breakup of the body after death, is reborn in companionship with the agreeable-bodied heavenly beings. She does not despise her husband, the man who constantly supports her, who is dedicated and eagerly always bringing her whatever she needs. Nor does a wholesome woman scold her husband with speech caused by jealousy. The wise woman shows veneration to all those whom her husband admires. She rises early, works diligently, manages the domestic help, and treats her husband in an agreeable way and safeguards the wealth he earns. The woman who fulfills her duties thus, following her husband's will and wishes, is reborn among the heavenly beings called the agreeable ones.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. So here there's this woman who's asking the Buddha about how one is reborn into this particular realm. And the Buddha is providing this guidance, right? He's just going to share with her what she's asking. He's asking certain questions. So here, a woman provided, during the lifetime of the Buddha, provided almost like they were like the manager of the household, right? Like the husband might have went outside to do certain work, but the woman is like managing all of these things, and the husband is bringing in certain things. So he's kind of guiding this woman and understanding how to manage her household in ways that's going to turn out good for her and turn out good for her husband, turn out good for the workers and all the other people. So some of these things an individual may or may not do today, but some of them would be very wise. So here, the Buddha talks about this individual who was given to a husband by her family, right? It sounds like there was more of an arranged marriage that was going on during this time. So the Buddha needed to teach that, based on that and based on what was going on in society, this is what he was suggesting, is that one has this compassion that this woman was given to this particular husband, and that she rises before him, retires after him, and does these things in order to conduct herself in terms of her speech in pleasing ways. Then she honors, respects, admires, and venerates those whom her husband respects, like his mother and his father, ascetics and Brahmins. These are like teachers. And when they arrive, she offers them a seed and water. She's like the manager of this household. So just like a food server might come and ask the Buddha, what should I do in my job as a food server? The Buddha's just going to go through and kind of list out things that you can do in order to make wise decisions in that particular role. Here, he's sharing with her that she can be skillful and diligent, attending to her husband's domestic chores, whether knitting or weaving, which we don't do so much anymore these days, possessing sound judgment about them and carrying out and arranging them properly, certain tasks of the household, right? Then here, the woman is also managing the household work, the domestic helpers, right? And then the money that comes home, she's protecting that money. She's not a spendthrift or wasting and squandering the earnings. That's helpful even for today. Like if you guys are in a life partner, whether it's two men or two women or a man and a woman, if you guys are making money and you're sharing the money, it's wise not to waste the money on different things, because it's going to affect your household if one is wasting money. Then number 6 here, he's talking about being a household practitioner, because if you're being a household practitioner, learning from the teachings of the Buddha, you're going to be getting wiser and wiser in developing your mind, and this is going to help your household significantly. And then as part of that learning, an individual would be practicing the 5 precepts. That's what he's talking about here in terms of abstaining from taking life, taking what is not given, sexual misconduct, false speech, and taking intoxicants. And then lastly, he talks about being generous. That generosity is important, because that's going to lead to the elimination of craving, desire, attachment. So these are the things that he's sharing that would lead to rebirth in this agreeable bodied heavenly beings. And again, that's not the goal, but he's just explaining this cause and effect of what is truly happening. So let me know what questions you guys have here. And you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So thank you, Marcy, for reading. Thank you guys for your questions. Thank you for your dedication and diligence to learning the teachings of the Buddha. Next week, we're going to be in chapters 81 through 90. So if you'd like to study those prior to class, because you've got the words of the Buddha and you've got words from me, which in class, I don't go through the same level of detail that I go through in the books. So if you guys do read the books, you're going to see a much deeper level of detail of teaching there. If you really don't have the time in your life, or you can't make the time, okay, just come to class. You can learn here to a certain level of degree. But as you have time in your life, if you read these chapters, you're going to get a lot more benefit out of it. So next week, we're going to be doing 81 through 90. Tomorrow in the group learning program, I'm going to be in volume 1, chapter 22. This one is titled Mental Health, a Modern Day Delusion. This is where I'm going to teach you about anorexia, bulimia, depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, ADHD, ADD, all these different things that are today considered biological, and the cause of those are considered to be biological. I'm going to show you how all these symptoms that people are experiencing can be explained through the teachings of the Buddha. And then understanding what's causing this through the mind, you can actually apply the solutions from the Buddha and eliminate the symptoms of all of these things that people nowadays are thinking are biological and chemically based, or maybe the brain is defective. You can see that the brain isn't defective and that you can actually remedy these mental health challenges through training the mind through the teachings of the Buddha. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a guided breathing mindfulness meditation session and opening up to any and all questions that you guys have. So thank you all for your questions. Thank you for your dedication and diligence. Thank you for any generosity that you're practicing with me. I really appreciate your generosity to help me to be able to share the teachings that I'm sharing. There's continuously more and more and more students learning through all the different methods of online classes, here in person, having personal guidance sessions. There's lots and lots of students that are continuing to learn. So thank you for all your support. Perhaps we'll see you guys in one of these future classes. We'll see you then. Take care. Have a lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Sawadee krap.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.